When you think about Osu documentaries, who comes to mind? Well, there are many options, but you most likely think of Brahmaster L. For a while, I have pondered on a thought. Why did he quit making these videos, and why are they so generic? As the years have passed, these videos just don't hit the same. This is the downfall of top player Osu documentaries. Before we get into the beginning of Osu documentaries, we must first establish what one contains. Osu video essays, commonly referred to as Osu documentaries, are videos that go into detail on many topics, usually categorized into three types: the miscellaneous essays, the top player videos, and the videos on maps. We'll be looking at the top player Osu documentaries. So, how did they start? As we established earlier, whilst Brahmaster L was the main person who popularized the Osu documentary format, he was not the first. In fact, who was the first? Well, from my research, I'm led to believe Willie might have sparked this whole format off with his video titled Cookiezi, the greatest Osu player of all time. This is a certified hood classic. Everyone knows this video, and it stands at a staggering 2 million views. I tried to see if anyone else made top player Osu documentaries back in the day, but this was the oldest I had found. Something Willie did do though was Minute Legends, where he would select a player and talk about them in a minute or two. This may have inspired him to make longer videos on top players, and to Willie's credit, he would not spam this format like you would see some others do. Willie ran so Brahmaster L could walk. You can just take a look at his channel, and this is not a beatdown of Brahmaster L. In fact, he actually inspired me to make Osu YouTube videos. All I'm trying to point out is that he farmed and milked the ever-living hell out of this format, just like me, but we'll get into that later. Seeing all of these views, hundreds of thousands and millions of views combined, we can assume that many other creators seeing the rapid success from this format would also want a piece of that cake and create the same type of content. So what's wrong with that? Well, nothing. You are free to make whatever content you want and consume whatever content you want, but something is off. While there are a lot of people that like the simplicity of this content and say this was the peak of Osu content, others beg to differ and call it lazy, lacks storytelling, little to no editing, and basically zero personality. But what if I told you it's not the creator's fault, but rather the type of content they were making? Let's look at the start of the format's downfall. I think the community as a whole has come to the general consensus that top player Osu documentaries only go through a fraction of top players' journeys, and they usually lack any sort of storytelling or creativeness, other than a few exceptions, but we'll get into those later. Now, as someone who used to one-trick making these types of videos, I will let you into the creative process behind making one. Usually when you want to make a video on a top player, you want to first get in contact with them or let them come in contact with you, but the former is what you'll most likely have to do. When you've got the person you want to make the video with, hopefully you've told them your intentions, you just ask questions that would help you write a script for a video. Here's where we encounter the first problem. As we have established, most Osu documentaries, bar a few, lack the storytelling aspect. But why? Let's start with the misinformation. When Brahmaster L started using this format, he was clowned for just spewing nonsense and making facts up, mainly because his earlier videos were not in collaboration with top players he was covering. Most of the outrage was apparent on Reddit. His older videos, at least up to the Raphis video, were researched in a day or two and got things wrong. His improvement video was full of misinformation and was incredibly poorly researched for an advice video. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be the saint of information. I'm not a nerd, and I do get my facts wrong a lot of the time, but this is a big factor for why storytelling can be impacted negatively. You can't just be making up the story for someone when they really didn't do that thing. Next, the script writing process. I can confidently tell you it's hard to write a script if the questions you asked are horrendously bad. In my experience, when I ask top players for more context or what happened during a certain period of time, they simply say, "I don't know," or "I don't remember." This is tricky because how are content creators supposed to work with this answer? You can't just make things up. This is actually where I face the most backlash. Let's analyze my latest top player documentary video from 5 months ago on worst hard rock player. The biggest point of contention was the early story and the fact it skipped between PP milestones so quickly. Here, take a look. Throughout the beginning of worst hard rock player's journey, he would sit his first 300 PP play at the time on Baselop with a no mod SS. Then this would be followed up by his first 400 PP play on First Storm with Hidden. The criticism is valid. Even I feel like the videos I made were incomplete stories. The thing is, not only is it hard for the players to remember, but also for the content creators to come up with something, because they literally can't do anything to fill the gap if there's no recollection of anything happening during that time period. I even point that out. Even though he doesn't really remember the very start of his Osu career. This is not to hate on worst hard rock player or anyone I made a video on. I don't expect them to remember things that were completely irrelevant to what made them successful today. They're not gonna geek out and say, "Well, on the 23rd of December 2018, I installed Osu, and 3 minutes later, I FT'd my first 1-star map at approximately 4:30. That's unrealistic. On the flip side, this is why some top player videos are great, because the person they are working with remembers a lot of stuff. In this case, let's use Cypher. He had reached out to me and was a very nice guy to work with, along with him remembering key points like his very old cheating history. This made it so the early story and build up of the video I made was more fluid, but other than that, the lack of information from the person inherently ruins the storytelling. Now the editing. It's no surprise that these videos are simplistic. Almost always it will be someone's voice over some Osu gameplay with a couple of images that pop up on the screen, and that's it. Now this would be fine. You don't go to watch a top player story for the editing, but rather the enticing narrative. However, when the story is lackluster and the editing is so boring you fall asleep, that is terrible. Actually, if you just yap over 3 Osu beat maps with a couple of images and barely any effort in editing, you're boring as fuck. But you guys are not ready for that conversation yet. How about personality? As I addressed before, you go and watch these videos to hear about the top player's story. The person making the video is just a messenger, and in turn, nobody cares about them most of the time. As harsh as it sounds, they will be overshadowed by their content because they will never be able to show their true personality when presenting someone else's story. It's just way too difficult to do. However, I did want to talk about a certain video essay or documentary channel, Etienne. If you don't know, Etienne is a video creator that makes a variety of content mainly focused on rhythm games. He is able to turn videos most people wouldn't usually care about into one that intrigues their viewers. In fact, let's quickly analyze some of his videos on top Osu players. Both his Vaxei and Zudinator videos follow a simple narrative arc. This is the basic outline for a story, and the bare bones format everyone should follow. But Etienne follows this extremely well. Not only that, but the order of events and information researched is impeccable. It's almost as if it encapsulates the entirety of both of these players' journeys. He also likes to take a look at different aspects of these players, like tournament play, and goes into further detail. He, in my eyes, is the only one who truly made great video essays on top Osu players. Nowadays, Etienne doesn't post anymore, and it's been around a year since his last upload. I wish he would come back. Another huge thing is branding. What do you think about when I mention Stu, another Osu YouTuber? For most of you, you will answer with the Osu News Guy. And that's right, that there is branding. Another important factor for the downfall of Osu documentaries. There are so many different types of creators in this community that making this generic content with the same formula won't gain you a name, unless you did this 4 years back and you were really persistent. Another person who was able to escape the Osu community and go into the larger rhythm game and My community is Sao. Sao has also been effectively able to keep his branding consistent and unique at the same time, and his takes are the best. So I asked him his opinion on top player documentaries. This is what he said.
I made a video about this a while ago called Why Osu Content's Dying, where I talk about player documentaries, and to summarize, the combination of the lack of innovation with the videos, along with the repetitive and somewhat boring nature of the players they document, are the reasons why people don't watch them anymore. Documentaries in general do very well on YouTube. Like, you look up some mid-internet drama and it has thousands of views. Online drama is always occurring, so there's an endless stream of content to be made. But in Osu, there's only one Amrik or one Cookie Z to make a documentary on. Unfortunately, you can tell that the Osu content scene is dire for any type of video idea, so they constantly make videos on a random top 100 player that I don't even know, and they do that until they milk the format to death. So now, no one makes player documentaries anymore.
This is not to discourage people from making this type of content, but all I'm saying is if you want to make a name for yourself, you need to be different. You cannot blend in with those who do the same things. If anything, this is a challenge to make a good Osu video on a top player, applying good editing, personality, which is something as simple as cracking a few jokes, and good storytelling. It is currently 2024, and Osu documentaries have become quite repetitive, with many creators sticking to the same formula. This started when a few documentaries got popular, showing that this specific style could attract a lot of viewers. Creators rushed to copy it, hoping to get the same level of attention. This focus on following a proven formula has led to a lot of documentaries that feel the same, without much personality or any fresh perspectives, and eventually this led to the inevitable downfall of top player Osu documentaries.